The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning in the year 2000. Every radio crackled with the same strange voice. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and the universe wanted to talk. Captain Junho Park stood at the window of the United Earth Command Center, watching the massive alien ship hover above the clouds. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a teardrop the size of a mountain. He had spent 20 years in the military, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "They want to meet," said a voice behind him. Jana turned to see Dr. Unikim, walking toward him with a tablet in her hands. She was the best xenobiologist on the planet, which meant she studied life that might exist beyond Earth. Until today, her work had been mostly theory. Now, it was very real. "Where?" Junho asked. "They're building a station near Mars. Neutral ground," they said. Yuna looked at the data on her screen. "They call themselves the Galactic Council. 347 species. They have been watching us for a long time." Junho felt a chill run down his spine. 347 species. Humanity had always wondered if there was other life out there. Now they knew the answer, and it was bigger than anyone had imagined. The delegation left Earth 3 weeks later. Junho led the team as military commander. Yuna came as the chief science officer. And Ambassador Hannah Choi was chosen to speak for all of humanity. She was calm, smart, and had a gift for making people trust her. Junho hoped those skills would work on aliens too. The station near Mars was impressive. It floated in the darkness of space like a glowing city made of crystal and light. Thousands of ships moved around it, coming and going from every direction. Junho counted at least 50 different designs. Each one, he realized, belonged to a different species. "This is incredible," Yuna whispered as their ship approached the docking bay. When they landed, a group of aliens was waiting for them. Junho's first thought was that they looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Some were tall and thin, with bodies like glass filled with colored smoke. Others were short and covered in hard shells. A few floated above the ground, having no legs at all. But they all had one thing in common. They were all wearing thick suits that covered every part of their bodies. Not a single piece of skin or shell or whatever they had was exposed to the air. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," said one of the aliens through a speaker in its suit. "We are pleased to finally meet humanity." Ambassador Hannah stepped forward and bowed politely. "Thank you for this invitation. We are honored to be here." The aliens led them through long hallways to a large meeting room. The walls were made of something that looked like frozen smoke, and the ceiling showed a live view of the stars outside. Junho noticed that the aliens kept their distance from the humans. They stayed at least 3 meters away at all times. The meeting began with formal introductions. The aliens explained the history of the Galactic Council, how it had kept peace among the stars for over 10,000 years. They talked about trade, about shared knowledge, about the benefits of joining their great community. Junho tried to pay attention, but he kept noticing something strange. The aliens were nervous. They watched the humans the way a person might watch a dangerous animal. Every time one of the humans moved, the aliens flinched. During a break in the meeting, Yuna reached into her bag and pulled out a bottle of water. She opened it and took a long drink. She was thirsty, and she thought nothing of it, but the aliens did. The room went silent. Every alien froze in place. Several of them stepped backward. One made a sound like a scream and ran out of the room entirely. "Wait. What are you doing?" one of the aliens asked. Its voice was shaking. Yuna looked at the bottle in her hand, confused. "I was just drinking water." The alien made a gesture that might have been horror. "You drink hydrogen oxide? You put it inside your body?" Yunho felt his stomach drop. Something was very wrong here. An older alien stepped forward. It was taller than the others, and its suit was decorated with symbols that looked important. "You must explain yourselves," it said. "We have seen your planet. We know that your world is covered in this substance. We know that it falls from your sky, but we did not believe that you actually touched it, that you consumed it." Yuna set the bottle down slowly. "Water is essential for human life," she said carefully. "Our bodies are made of about 60% water. We need it to survive." The silence that followed was the loudest thing Junho had ever heard. 60%? The older alien repeated. You are telling us that your bodies are mostly made of hydrogen oxide? Yes, Yuna said. Is that a problem? The alien looked at its companions. They were all trembling now. Some of them were backing toward the exits. Hydrogen oxide, the alien said slowly, is one of the most dangerous substances in the known universe. It burns through metal. It destroys organic tissue. It is so deadly that we use it as a weapon of last resort. Entire civilizations have been wiped out by hydrogen oxide attacks. Jinho felt the room spinning around him. Water. Simple, ordinary water. The thing they drank every day, the thing they bathed in, the thing that fell from the sky back home. To the rest of the galaxy, it was poison. Your planet, the alien continued, is covered in this acid. Your bodies are filled with it. You drink it for pleasure. The alien paused, and Junho could hear real fear in its voice. What kind of creatures are you? Ambassador Hannah stepped forward, her hands raised in a peaceful gesture. We mean you no harm, she said. Water is simply part of our nature. We cannot help what we are. But the aliens were no longer listening. They were running. The doors to the meeting room burst open, and every alien fled into the hallway. Leaving the three humans standing alone in the empty room, Juna looked at Yuna. Yuna looked at Hannah. None of them knew what to say. Humanity had finally met the galaxy, and the galaxy was terrified of them. 3 days passed after the first meeting, and no alien would come near the human delegation. Yunho and his team were given rooms in a far corner of the station, away from everyone else. Guards stood outside their door at all times, but they were not there to protect the humans. They were there to protect everyone else. Lieutenant Timino arrived on the second day with additional military support. He was young but serious, the kind of soldier who never smiled. When Junho explained what had happened, Taemin just nodded slowly. So they think we are monsters, Taemin said. They think we are made of poison, Junho replied. Which from their point of view, we are. Minho Beek was the last to join their team. He was a translator and cultural expert sent by Earth to help with communication. He was barely 25 years old, with a quick mind and a talent for languages. Within hours of arriving, he had already started learning 3 alien languages from recordings. The station is talking about us, Minho reported during a team meeting. I have been listening to their broadcasts. They are calling us the Acid Walkers. Some of them think we were sent here to destroy them. Ambassador Hannah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. We need to change their minds. If we cannot make them see us as friends, this will end badly for Earth. No. But changing minds was not easy. The rumors about humans spread through the station like fire. Stories grew wilder with each telling. Some aliens said that humans could spit acid that would melt through walls. Others claimed that human blood could eat through starship armor. A few believed that Earth was a living weapon, a planet designed to produce the deadliest soldiers in the universe. Yuna spent her days trying to explain human biology to anyone who would listen. But every time she mentioned water, the aliens would panic. She learned to call it other things. She called it hydrogen oxide, or H2O, or simply the liquid. But the fear remained. On the 4th day, Minho made a discovery. He had been digging through the station's public records, looking for anything that might help them understand why the aliens feared water so much. What he found made his blood run cold. You need to see this, he told the team, his face pale. They gathered around his screen. Minho had found old war records, classified documents that someone had forgotten to hide properly. The files described a conflict from 3,000 years ago, a war between 2 great empires that had nearly destroyed half the galaxy. The weapon that ended the war was called the Blue Death. It was a bomb that released massive amounts of hydrogen oxide into the atmosphere of enemy planets. The water vapor spread through the air, fell as rain, and killed everything it touched. Billions of creatures died screaming as the liquid burned through their bodies. They used water as a weapon of mass destruction, Yuna whispered. Not just once, Minho said. Many times. Over centuries, entire species went extinct because of these attacks. To them, Water is not just dangerous. It is evil. It is the worst thing they can imagine.
What?
Junho understood now. The aliens were not just afraid of water, they were traumatized by it. For thousands of years, water had meant death and destruction. And now, a species made of water had arrived at their doorstep. The council called an emergency meeting the next day. This time, the humans were not invited. They watched from their rooms through a video feed that Minho had secretly accessed. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. At the center stood a raised platform where the senior counselors sat. One of them was a creature made of living crystal, old and powerful. Its name was Counselor Vrix, and it led the security committee. "We must discuss the human problem," Vrix said, its voice ringing through the chamber. "They are a threat unlike any we have faced before," other counselors spoke up. "They claim to come in peace." "They are made of hydrogen oxide," Vrix replied. "Their planet is a death world. 70% of its surface is covered in the substance. They swim in it. They drink it. They are poison given form." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Junho felt sick watching it. "I propose that we classify humanity as a Class 7 biohazard species," Vrix continued. "We must quarantine their planet. No ship should be allowed to approach Earth. No human should be allowed to leave." More voices rose in support. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. But then a new voice spoke. It was quieter than the others, but something about it made everyone listen. "May I speak?" The chamber fell silent. A creature moved forward through the crowd. It was different from the others, its body flowing like liquid metal. This was Counselor Myrith, a diplomat from a species that lived on worlds of ammonia ice. "I have studied the humans," Myrith said. "I have watched their transmissions. I have learned their history. Yes, they are made of hydrogen oxide. Yes, their world is dangerous to us. But they did not choose this. They were born this way." Vrix made a sound of disgust. "That does not make them less dangerous." "No," Myrith agreed. "But it means they are not our enemy. They did not come here to hurt us. They came because they wanted to meet us. They came in peace." The chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed with Myrith. Many more agreed with Vrix. The debate raged for hours. Back in their rooms, the human team watched in silence. Ambassador Hannah's hands were shaking. "They're going to lock us away," she said quietly. "They are going to trap Earth behind a wall and never let us out." Junho stood up. "Then we need to show them who we really are. Not monsters. Not weapons. People." "How?" Temin asked. Junho did not have an answer. But he knew they had to find one. The future of humanity depended on it. The next morning, Yuna requested permission to address the council. To everyone's surprise, they agreed. Perhaps they were curious. Perhaps they wanted to see the monster up close. Yuna stood alone in the center of the great chamber, surrounded by thousands of aliens who looked at her with terror in their eyes. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "I know you are afraid of us," she said. "I understand why. But please, let me tell you what water means to my people. On Earth, water is not a weapon. It is life. We sing songs about rain. We build our homes near rivers. Our children play in the ocean waves. To us, water is beautiful." The chamber was silent. Every eye was on her. "We did not know that water was dangerous to you. We are sorry for the fear we have caused. But we cannot change what we are. We can only promise that we will never use our nature to harm you." She paused, looking around at the frightened faces. "Give us a chance, please." For a moment, Junho dared to hope. Then Counselor Vrix raised one crystal arm and pointed at Yuna. "Remove her," Vrix commanded. "The council will vote on the quarantine tomorrow." Guards moved forward. Yuna was escorted out of the chamber. As she passed Junho at the door, he saw tears in her eyes. They were tears made of salt water. And to every alien watching, they looked like drops of acid rolling down her face. The vote came the next morning, just as Counselor Vrix had promised. The result was not even close. 312 species voted in favor of the quarantine. Only 35 voted against. Humanity would be locked away, trapped on their poisonous world forever. Sergeant Narration received the news while standing guard outside the delegation's quarters. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and hands that never trembled. She had been a soldier for 15 years, and she had faced death many times. But this was different. This was not a battle she could fight with weapons. "They are sending us home," she told Captain Junho when he stepped out of his room. "Our ship leaves tomorrow." Junho nodded slowly. He had expected this. And Earth. No contact with any other species. No ships allowed within 10 light-years of our system. We are to be forgotten. The team gathered one last time in their small meeting room. Ambassador Hannah sat with her head in her hands. Dr. Yuna stared at the wall, her eyes empty. Temin and Minho stood by the door, silent and grim. Sun Wuzhang, their engineer, was working on his tablet, though his hands were shaking. "There has to be something we can do," Junho said. "What can we do?" Hannah replied, her voice tired. "They have made their decision. They think we are monsters. We cannot change their minds." Soft knock interrupted them. The door opened, and a strange figure slipped inside. It was Counselor Mirith, the one who had spoken in defense of humanity at the council meeting. The liquid metal creature looked around nervously as if afraid of being seen. "Should not be here," Mirith said quietly. "But there are things you need to know." Junho stepped forward. "We are listening." Mirith moved to the center of the room. "The quarantine is not the worst of your problems. There is a group within the council called the Purifiers. They believe that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They are planning something terrible." "What kind of something?" Taman asked, his hand moving to his weapon. "They want to destroy Earth," Mirith said. "They have ships. They have weapons. They plan to attack your world before you can spread your contamination across the galaxy." Ow! The room went cold. Yunho felt like the floor had dropped out from under him when he demanded, "Soon." "Within the next few months. They are gathering their forces now." Hannah stood up, her exhaustion replaced by fury. "The council is going to let them do this." "The council does not know. The Purifiers work in secret. Many of their members hold high positions. They have hidden their plans well." Mirith paused. "There is evidence of their conspiracy, but it is locked away in a place no one can reach." "Where?" Yuna asked. Mirith made a gesture that might have been sadness. "Have you heard of the Celestial Dawn?" Sunwoo looked up from his tablet. "The old council flagship. The one that was lost 100 years ago?" "Yes, the Celestial Dawn was carrying sensitive documents when it was destroyed. One of those documents contains the names of every Purifier leader. If someone could retrieve it, the conspiracy would be exposed." "Why has no one retrieved it?" Ginho asked. Mirith was silent for a long moment. "The ship was destroyed by a coolant system failure. The entire vessel flooded with hydrogen oxide. To this day, the wreck is filled with water. No species in the galaxy can survive inside it. The ship is a tomb that no one can enter." Understanding dawned on Junho's face. He looked at his team. They looked back at him. The same thought was forming in all of their minds. "We can enter it," Junho said slowly. "Water cannot hurt us." Mirith's body rippled with what might have been hope. "That is why I came to you. You are the only beings in the galaxy who could survive that mission. If you retrieve the evidence, you could save your world. And prove our value to the council," Yuna added. "Show them that we are not monsters, that we can do things no one else can do." Hannah was already thinking ahead. "We would need permission. The council would never let us near that ship." "Leave that to me," Mirith said. "I have friends who share my views. We can convince the council to allow this mission. They will expect you to fail. They will expect you to die. But if we succeed, everything changes," Junho finished. The plan came together quickly. Mirith would return to the council and propose the mission as a test. If the humans could retrieve the data from the Celestial Dawn, it would prove that they could be useful to the galaxy. If they died in the attempt, well, that would solve the human problem in a different way. The council agreed within hours. Counselor Vrix even supported the proposal, though Junho suspected that Vrix was hoping for the second outcome. Nari began preparing the team for the mission. She checked their equipment, tested their suits, and made sure everyone knew what they were facing. The celestial dawn had been drifting in space for a century. Its systems were dead. Its corridors were flooded. And somewhere inside, 10,000 alien bodies were still floating in the darkness. This is not going to be easy, Nari warned them. The ship is huge. We will need to find the data core, retrieve the files, and get out before our air runs out. We can do it, Taemin said. We have to. On the night before the mission, Junho stood alone at a window, looking out at the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, far away, waiting for news. Billions of people were going about their lives, not knowing that their future depended on what happened tomorrow. Why UNA found him there. She stood beside him in silence for a while. Are you afraid? She asked finally. Yes, Junho admitted. But not of the water. Not of the ship. I am afraid of failing. I am afraid of what happens to Earth if we do not come back with that evidence. Yuna nodded. I am afraid too. But I also feel something else. She paused, searching for the right words. All my life, I studied aliens. I dreamed of meeting them. And now that I have, they look at me like I am a nightmare. They see poison when they look at my face. And tomorrow, we get to show them what we really are. Not poison. Not monsters. Just people who can do something incredible. She smiled slightly. I think that is worth being afraid for. Junho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow, we make history. The next morning, the human delegation boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the wreck of the Celestial Dawn. Behind them, the entire Galactic Council watched through drone cameras. Millions of eyes across hundreds of worlds were fixed on the tiny ship carrying 6 humans, toward certain death. None of them believed the humans would survive, but all of them wanted to see what would happen when monsters met their match. The shuttle approached the wreck, and Junho got his first look at what they were facing. The Celestial Dawn was enormous, a broken giant floating in the void. Water had frozen on its outer hull, creating strange patterns of ice that sparkled in the starlight. Beginning approach, Sunwoo announced from the pilot's seat. Junho looked at his Team Yuna, Taemin, Nari, Minho, 6 humans against an impossible task. Let us show them what we can do, he said. The shuttle docked with the wreck, and the mission began. The airlock opened with a hiss, and water rushed in. Junho felt the cold liquid hit his body and filled the small chamber around him. It rose past his ankles, his knees, his waist. By the time it reached his chest, he was already swimming. The water was dark and cold, but it was just water. Nothing more. Behind him, his team followed one by one. Yuna moved gracefully through the flooded corridor, her scientific mind already studying everything around her. Taemin swam with military precision, his eyes scanning for threats. Nari stayed close to the group, watching their backs. Minho carried the data equipment in a waterproof bag, and Yoonji Kwan, their young medic, who had volunteered at the last moment, swam at the rear, ready to help anyone who needed her, through the drone cameras. Millions of aliens watched in horrified amazement. The humans were swimming through liquid death as if it were nothing. They moved through the water like it was their natural environment, because for them, it was. I cannot believe what I am seeing, one alien broadcaster said, his voice shaking. They're just moving through it like it is air. Data core should be in the central section. Sunwoo's voice crackled through their earpieces. He had stayed behind on the shuttle to guide them. Take the main corridor forward, then down to levels. Junho led the way. The ship was a graveyard. Bodies floated everywhere, preserved by the cold water for 100 years. Aliens of different species, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. They had died screaming as the water filled their lungs. Try not to look, Junho told his team. Focus on the mission. But it was hard not to look. The scale of death was overwhelming. Thousands of creatures had died here, killed by something that humans drank every day. Junho felt a strange mix of sadness and wonder. These beings had feared water so much that it had killed them, through panic as much as through chemistry. They swam deeper into the ship. The corridors grew darker as they moved away from the outer sections. Yanji turned on her flashlight, and the beam cut through the murky water, revealing more bodies, more destruction, more evidence of the catastrophe that had struck this vessel. "I am picking up something strange," Minho said suddenly. "Energy readings. Very faint." "From where?" Yuna asked. "2 more levels down." Junho made a decision. "We check it out, but we stay together." They swam downward through a vertical shaft that had once been a turbo lift. The water grew colder. The darkness grew deeper. And then, as they reached the bottom level, Youngji gasped. "Oh my God," she whispered. A row of pods lined the wall. Emergency stasis chambers, designed to keep people alive during disasters. Most of them were dark and dead, but 3 of them were glowing with faint blue light. "Survivors?" Yuna breathed. "After 100 years, there are still survivors." They approached the pods carefully. Through the frosted glass, Junho could see shapes inside. Living shapes. The automated systems had kept these few souls alive for a century, waiting for a rescue that never came. "Can we get them out?" Temin asked. Yunji examined the pods. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. "The pods are designed to be portable. We can detach them and carry them with us. But they are heavy. It will slow us down." "We're not leaving them," Junho said firmly. "We came here to prove that humans are not monsters. Leaving people behind would make us exactly what they think we are." Nobody argued. They detached the 3 pods and began swimming back toward the upper levels. Each pod carried between 2 people. The drone cameras captured everything. Across the galaxy, aliens watched as humans risked their lives to save people they had never met. People who would have died of terror if they knew that humans were touching them. "They are rescuing them," an alien news anchor said, unable to hide her shock. "The humans are actually rescuing them." They reached the data core 20 minutes later. The room was large and circular, filled with computer banks that had somehow survived the flooding. Minho immediately went to work, connecting his equipment to the main terminal. "I am in," he announced after a few tense minutes, downloading everything, including the purifier files. "How long?" Junho asked. 10 minutes? Maybe 15? Nari checked her watch. "Our air will last another 40 minutes. We will be fine." But the universe had other plans. A loud groan echoed through the ship. Metal scraped against metal. The whole structure shuddered. "What was that?" Yunji asked, her voice tight with fear. Sun Wu's voice came through the radio, urgent and afraid. "The ship is breaking apart. A section of the hull just collapsed. You need to get out now. We need the data," Minho said. "Just a few more minutes." Another groan. Another shudder. A crack appeared in the ceiling of the data core, and more water began pouring in. Not that it mattered to the humans, but the structural damage was real. "Minho, hurry," Junho ordered. The seconds stretched into eternity. The ship continued to break apart around them. Through the cracks, Junho could see the cold emptiness of space, waiting just beyond the weakening hull. "Done," Minho shouted. "I have everything. Move," Junho commanded. They swam as fast as they could, dragging the stasis pods behind them. The ship groaned and screamed as it died around them. Corridors collapsed. Debris flew through the water. But the humans kept moving, kept swimming, kept fighting. Yunji suddenly stopped. She had seen something. A small figure, huddled in an air pocket near the ceiling of a collapsed room. It was a child. An alien child, no bigger than a human toddler, somehow still alive after all this time. "There is a survivor," Yunji said. "A child." "We do not have time," Temin shouted. Eung did not listen. She swam toward the air pocket. The child saw her coming and screamed in terror. To this little creature, Youngji was a monster made of poison, coming to kill it. "It is okay," Youngji said softly, even though the child could not understand her. "I am going to help you." She reached into the air pocket and gently took hold of the child. The little alien thrashed and cried, its screams echoing through the water. Yonji held it close to her chest and began swimming back toward the group. The drone cameras captured every moment. The alien child, screaming in absolute terror, held in the arms of a creature made of acid, and Yonji swimming calmly through the water, protecting the child with her own body as the ship collapsed around them. "She is saving it," an alien viewer whispered. "The human is saving the child." They reached the airlock with seconds to spare. Sunwoo had brought the shuttle in close, and one by one they climbed aboard. Yonji came last, still holding the crying child. The airlock sealed behind them. The shuttle pulled away, and moments later, Celestial Dawn finally gave up its long fight against time and collapsed into a cloud of debris. Inside the shuttle, there was silence except for the child's gradually quieting sobs. Yonji had wrapped it in a thermal blanket and was holding it gently, humming a Korean lullaby that her mother had sung to her when she was small. The child, exhausted and confused, eventually stopped crying. It looked up at Yonji with wide, frightened eyes. Then, slowly, it reached up and touched her face. Its tiny fingers came away wet with the water that clung to Yoongi's skin. The child stared at its hand, at the drops of hydrogen oxide that should have burned it but did not hurt at all. For the first time in its short life, water was not death. Water was safety. Water was the strange creature who had swum through poison to carry it to freedom. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens saw what the child saw. A human, dripping with the most dangerous substance in the universe. Holding an alien child with gentleness and love, something shifted in that moment. Fear began to turn into wonder. Horror began to turn into hope. And in the council chamber, even Counselor Vrix was silent. The shuttle landed at the council station 3 hours later. For the first time since the humans had arrived, there were aliens waiting to greet them. Not guards. Not soldiers. Just people who wanted to see the impossible with their own eyes. Junho stepped off the shuttle first. He was tired and sore, but he stood tall. Behind him came his team, carrying the stasis pods with the survivors they had rescued. Yonji came last, still holding the alien child who had fallen asleep in her arms. The watching crowd made no sound. They just stared. Medical teams rushed forward to take the stasis pods. The survivors would need careful treatment, but they were alive. After 100 years of drifting in a flooded tomb, they were going to live. An older alien approached Yonji hesitantly. Its body was similar to the child's, and Junho realized this must be a relative. Perhaps a grandparent. Perhaps someone who had spent a century believing their family was dead. "My grandchild," the alien whispered. "You saved my grandchild." Yonji gently transferred the sleeping child into the alien's arms. "She was very brave," Yonji said softly. The alien looked at Yonji with an expression that Yonho had never seen on an alien face before. It was not fear. It was not horror. It was gratitude. "Thank you," the alien said. "Thank you." The word spread through the station within hours. The humans had done the impossible. They had entered a ship filled with hydrogen oxide, covered survivors that everyone had given up for dead, and saved a child from certain death. They had walked through fire and come out carrying miracles, but the mission was not over yet. Minho had delivered the recovered data to Counselor Mirith, who immediately called an emergency session of the full council. The evidence was overwhelming. Names, dates, plans, communications. Everything needed to expose the Purifier conspiracy. The arrests began that same night. High-ranking officials, military commanders, diplomats. One by one, they were taken from their positions and brought before the council to face justice. Among them was Counselor Vrix himself, whose crystal body cracked with shame as the evidence of his involvement was read aloud. "You were going to destroy an entire world," Mirith said, standing before the accused. "You were going to murder 8 billion people because you were afraid. That fear ends today." The Purifiers were sentenced to exile on remote asteroids, far from any civilization. Their conspiracy was finished. Their plans for Earth were ashes. 1 week later, the council gathered for a different kind of session. This time, the humans were not prisoners or specimens or dangers to be contained. They were guests of honor. Ambassador Hannah stood at the center of the great chamber. She wore traditional Korean clothes, a hanbok of deep blue silk that reminded her of the oceans of Earth. Around her, hundreds of species watched with something new in their eyes. Respect. The council has reviewed the actions of the human delegation, the new council speaker announced. A month ago, such words would have been a death sentence. Today, they were something else entirely. In light of their courage, their compassion, and their service to our civilization, we hereby revoke all restrictions on the human species. A murmur ran through the chamber. Hannah felt her heart beating fast. Furthermore, the speaker continued, we invite humanity to join the Galactic Council as full members. With all rights and responsibilities that entails, Earth will no longer be isolated. Humans will no longer be feared. The chamber erupted in sound. Not screaming, not panic. Applause. Hundreds of species clapping, cheering. Celebrating the arrival of a new member to their family, Hannah bowed deeply, tears streaming down her face. She did not care if the aliens saw them. Let them see her cry. Let them see that humans had hearts as well as water in their veins in the months that followed. Everything changed. Admiral Doyon Shin arrived at the station to take command of a new initiative. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes, a veteran of Earth's space forces. Under his leadership, a special fleet was created. They called it the Hydra Corps. The Hydra Corps was made entirely of human volunteers. Their mission was simple: go where no one else could go. They explored water worlds that had been marked as too dangerous for any species to visit. They rescued ships that had been abandoned after coolant leaks. They performed salvage operations in conditions that would have killed anyone else in the galaxy. Humans became heroes. Dr. Yuna. Kim was appointed as Earth's permanent representative to the council. Counselor Yuna, they called her now. She sat in the same chamber where she had once been treated like a monster, and her voice carried weight that no human voice had ever carried before. We are not what you feared, she told the council during her first address. We are what you needed. Sometimes the things that scare us most turn out to be our greatest gifts. The other counselors listened. They were learning to see humans differently now. Not as poison, but as medicine. Not as death, but as hope. On a warm evening, 3 months after the mission, Captain Junho Park stood on the bridge of a new ship. The HSS Rainfall was humanity's first true galactic warship, built with technologies shared by a dozen different species. It was beautiful and powerful, a symbol of everything that had changed. His crew was mixed. Humans worked alongside aliens from a dozen worlds. They had learned to trust each other. Some of the aliens still flinched when a human drank water nearby, but they were getting better. Fear fades when you see that the monster is actually a friend. Temin served as his first officer. Nari led the security teams. Minho had become the ship's chief communications officer, fluent in more alien languages than anyone could count. Sunwoo kept the engines running. And Yoonji had started a medical exchange program, teaching alien doctors about human biology while learning about theirs. They were a family now. A strange, impossible family brought together. By water and courage and the simple belief that different does not mean dangerous, Junho raised a glass of water. Looking out at the stars beyond the viewport. To the galaxy, he said, may they never underestimate what a little water can do. His crew, human and alien alike, raised their own glasses. Some contained water. Some contained ammonia or methane or stranger things. But they all drank together, far away, on the council station's observation deck. Counselor Yuna watched Earth through a massive window. The blue planet hung in the darkness, beautiful and deadly and home. Rain was falling somewhere on its surface, she knew. The universal acid was pouring from the sky onto cities and forests and oceans. And somewhere down there, children were playing in puddles, laughing, splashing, dancing in the poison. Rain Eunice smiled. Humanity had come to the stars expecting to find wonders. Instead, they had discovered that they were the wonder all along. A species of impossible creatures, made of death yet filled with life, terrifying and gentle, dangerous and kind. The galaxy had never seen anything like them. And now, thanks to the courage of a small team and the kindness of a young medic holding a crying child, the galaxy never had to fear them again. The Hydrocore ships were already spreading across the stars, carrying humans to every corner of the galaxy. Wherever there was water, wherever there was danger, wherever someone needed saving from the impossible, humans would be there, walking through. Poison, breathing liquid death, and smiling the whole time, because that was just who they were.